You're watching This Week in Louisiana Politics with Fred Childers.
Good morning, I'm Fred Childers. Hope you're having a great weekend. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. All right, let's get started. We are just a week away from the start of the 2022 legislative session. One pre-filed bill we want to focus on looks to raise the minimum wage to more than $11 an hour. Some say the state desperately needs to raise the wage. Others say it will make the inflation crisis even worse. Political reporter Shannon Hecht breaks down both sides of the argument.
Over the years, there have been multiple attempts to raise the minimum wage in Louisiana. It is just one of 5 states that does not have its own set wage and uses the federal amount at $7.25. Representative Kyle Green wants to allow the voters to decide on the change. He came up with the amount by calculating what $7.25 in 2009, when the federal amount was established, would equate to today.
That number was $11.65. Basically, we're just increasing the minimum wage to deal with inflation over the past 15 years.
Some advocacy groups believe one answer to Louisiana's high poverty rate is a minimum wage increase.
That's all this is doing, is guaranteeing a floor that if someone works full time, they get enough money to survive.
While the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry has not taken a stance yet on this bill, they have historically opposed a wage increase. A Law B representative says that the wage increase could have more harm amid the inflation issues felt around the country.
There is the fact that the goods and services are going to go up, so now consumers are going to have more of their paycheck eaten up.
Representative Green says that his bill differs from past attempts since it is a constitutional amendment, so voters will get to decide. But it will take a 2/3 vote of both the House and the Senate to get it on the ballot. For your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
And another bill expected to make waves in the session, a bill for pushing to make pre-K more available. Shannon sat down with the lawmaker to learn why his focus is on early education.
Our kids are starting way behind.
Last session, Senator Cleo Fields made kindergarten mandatory. This year, he's trying to get preschool offered in every elementary school. While it wouldn't be mandatory, it would be a chance for families to get their kids learning during critical brain development ages.
Parents don't put their kids in early childhood education because they can't afford it, and then parents end up staying at home, or they take their kids to grandmother or their aunts, and it's just a vicious cycle.
Senator Fields says that he is aware that there is a teacher shortage, which could pose an issue in filling positions to teach these classes. He points to multiple bills trying to incentivize educators.
We have to offer more incentives to get teachers to teach.
Another hurdle for the bill is the price tag of creating these classes on the taxpayer dollar. The fiscal note is being created for the bill now to see what it would cost.
My response to the fiscal note is, it's going to lessen the fiscal note on the corrections on the backside. Either we pay on the front side by educating these kids, or we pay on the backside by incarcerating a bunch of kids.
He also expects to get some pushback from daycares, potentially losing business, but he plans to work with them more leading up to the debates on the bill.
Should be interesting. All right, a Louisiana lawmaker has filed a bill aiming to keep Russian ships out of Louisiana waters. Senate Bill 139 by Monroe Senator Stuart Cathy prohibits commercial vessels with majority Russian crews from entering waterways and ports of the state. This comes as many companies are cutting ties to Russia as sanctions tighten. People from all over the world are gathering in solidarity with Ukraine, including in Baton Rouge. Ariel Salk caught up with a group of students demonstrating at the state capitol in support of Ukraine.
Chanting at the state capitol today sends a clear message.
No war, no pain, uplifting Ukraine.
Support
no war,
for Ukraine.
No pain.
Students from Ukraine and Russia, hand in hand, pray for peace in their homelands, including Violeta Kovalenko. Her family is in Kyiv, capital of Ukraine.
My city, Kyiv, it looked just gorgeous. And I looked at the last photos of bombs hitting the buildings, and it's just terrifying. I'm really hoping that one day I'll be able to get back home.
She worries for the safety of her loved ones. ones.
My whole family is in Ukraine, is in there, and the situation is absolutely terrifying.
What I'm doing right now is actually a huge step because for this I might go to jail for 20 years.
Kirill Rosenstuff's family is from Moscow. He wants people to know many Russians are not supporting the attack on the neighboring country.
I would like to tell the world that we are not with him and we're against that.
When Rosenstuff goes back home, he fears he'll be forced to fight for a cause he doesn't support.
When I'm gonna come back, like in the airport, and they're gonna pack me, take me. I'm very scared. I'm very scared, I'm very concerned. And that's why I'm here again, to let people know there are people in trouble.
Kovalenko doesn't know when she will be back home, but she is sending her support from across the globe.
Слава Україні! Героям слава!
And the governor's mansion lit up in blue and yellow to symbolize the Ukrainian flag. The gesture showing solidarity as the Russian invasion continues. Russia is launching missiles and bombing Ukraine's largest cities, killing hundreds of civilians so far. Both sides are negotiating a ceasefire, but no agreements have been reached. In Lafayette, former St. Landry Parish District Attorney Charles Cravens pushed for a monument to be removed. According to historians, the Daughters of the Confederacy put up the monument in 1920, long after the Civil War. Some say its purpose was to intimidate African Americans from registering to vote. He says he asked the parish council to remove the statue because every day it stands there, it continues to represent the idea of white supremacy.
There is no doubt that they are part of history. But a good friend of mine told me yesterday, he said, you know, some of my family's names are probably inscribed on that monument. Some of the people on that monument are probably related to me. But if Putin was my cousin, I wouldn't want to put up a monument to Putin on the courthouse square.
The council voted to remove the statue and will replace it with something else. Civil rights organizations tensely wait for Governor John Bel Edwards to make a move on Louisiana's new political maps. One side says they're fair, others say they violate voting rights. Shannon Hecht breaks down the process.
Governor John Bel Edwards has less than 2 weeks to decide if he will sign or veto any of the maps passed by lawmakers. None of the maps create additional majority-minority districts. The governor has only clearly voiced his concerns against the congressional map, but the ACLU of Louisiana says all of the maps are in violation of the law.
The black voters who so desperately need his backing now entrusted him with the power to veto repressive laws. Should the governor choose not to reject the current maps, he will be turning his back on his people.
The argument expected to be used in any court cases is that making districts with smaller black voting age population, less than 57%, would lead to the district not electing the candidate of choice.
The analyses that have been done show that that 57% rate is not accurate, and it's much closer to 50 to 52 than it is to 57.
Other states have maps going through the legal process, but the Supreme Court has punted on some of the major cases due to impending elections.
But it is concerning that timing is turning into an issue.
There is also a question on if groups like the ACLU can bring these lawsuits or if it has to be an attorney general. So for now, the wait continues for state or federal action.
Senator John Kennedy announced this week that South Louisiana will receive $16 million in FEMA grants for disaster relief. He says Louisiana families have suffered for a brutal year and a half from hurricanes, and they need this help to recover. Here's a breakdown of the money so far. About $5 million goes to Plaquemines Parish, $4 million to Jefferson Davis Electric Co-op, $3 million to the South Lafourche Levee District, $2 million to the Department of Transportation, and $1 million to Lake Charles Memorial Hospital. Coming up, New Orleans Mardi Gras brought tourists back after 2 years off, and masks, well, their history in the Big Easy. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. After a year off, Mardi Gras came back in a big way across Louisiana. In New Orleans, it gave the city a major economic boost. Anna McAllister reports.
It's the calm after the storm. Post-Mardi Gras Bourbon Street is mild and tame after an extraordinary weekend that marked an incredible comeback.
Bars on Bourbon were packed over the weekend, and surely the owners and the employees are tired, but it was all worth it after a long 2 years. It's the financial boost they finally needed.
It was what the city needed. People were here, they were having a great time, they were spending money. Tourism is what we're here for, and the tourists came, and it was a great success.
And visitors say they've been shelling out the cash since they got here.
We've had a great time, spent a lot of money, and it was worth every penny.
We spent some money on the drinks on Bourbon Street.
Though this Mardi Gras season was a huge success compared to last year's, the numbers are still down from 2020. According to New Orleans & Company, the city's tourism office, the first few days of Mardi Gras weekend saw more than a 13% decline in occupancy from 2 years ago.
If I look at the numbers from 2 years ago, prior to COVID of 2020, we are about 25% down from that Mardi Gras.
But overall, businesses in the French Quarter say they're happy with this year's financial outcome and are thankful for law enforcement for keeping locals and tourists safe.
I think that with the police presence on Bourbon, with the state police and people seeing them out there, I think it's giving people the belief that, hey, it is safe in New Orleans. We can go there.
Anna McAllister, WGNO News.
Good moves. After years of strict enforcement, New Orleans is lifting its indoor mask mandate. The decision comes after city leaders report a stable number of positive cases in the community. While the CDC and the American Pediatric Association have not modified their COVID-19 policies for schools, masking is still strongly encouraged. Some business owners are rejoicing at the change after having difficult conversations with customers.
We have a lot of people that give us backlash and just a lot of back talk when we ask about masks. So I don't really think it's going to harm us in a way. I think it will probably be more helpful than harmful.
The city health director says that if cases stay stable, the city will also lift its vaccine or test mandate. Just before the city announced it would lift the mask mandate, Attorney General Jeff Landry was set to take the mayor to court. The suit also looked to end the vaccination or negative test requirement. Landry argues vaccine and mask mandates are unconstitutional. With the lifting of the mandate, the lawsuit is on hold indefinitely. Meanwhile, some local doctors say the Biden administration's new plan is nearly impossible. The CDC says the main goal is to create a one-stop shop at pharmacies for COVID-19 treatment, allowing people to get tested and treated with antiviral pills at the same location. However, local pharmacists say the State Department of Health has a limit on which pharmacies can hand out that pill.
Of the few selections we had, were for the most part limited to Baton Rouge, but then yes, there may have been one in Ascension Parish, and one maybe, in North Baton Rouge, but not much beyond that.
The pharmacy program called Test to Treat is launching this month. In the coming weeks, you will be able to track online which pharmacies are participating as it becomes more available. Coming up, we recap the key points of the State of the Union address, and Louisiana congressmen chime in on how they think the Russian invasion should be handled. Stay with us.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. In his first State of the Union address, President Biden laid out his vision for the country earlier this week. The president is vowing to confront economic issues like inflation here at home, while also combating threats abroad. Raquel Martin has the story.
Light will win over darkness.
With the eyes of the world watching, in his first State of the Union address, President Joe Biden pledged America's support for Ukraine, battling a violent Russian invasion.
Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight. Stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world.
President Biden says the U.S. and allies stand ready to enforce even harsher penalties if Russian President Vladimir Putin continues.
He badly miscalculated.
Although the U.S. has yet to announce sanctions on Russian oil, the president announced the U.S. and 30 other countries are releasing 60 million barrels of oil to try and keep gas prices down.
I want you to know we're going to be okay.
But some Republicans say that's not good enough.
We must stop importing any gasoline or refined petroleum products from Russia.
Following the speech, Ohio Congressman Dave Joyce said the president is sending mixed messages.
By continuing to buy oil products from Russia, we are funding the war in Ukraine.
Indiana Congresswoman Victoria Spartz, a Ukrainian native, says with time running out, she just hopes the president's words deliver and Congress puts its differences aside.
Because this is life and death. People are dying. And any delay in action will cost people dearly.
Just hours before President Joe Biden gave that speech, Louisiana congressmen were calling on him to do more to sanction Russia without endangering American lives. Shannon Hecht brings us the details.
When it comes to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, energy sources are taking a focus on the international level. With Russia being the third largest oil producer, Europe and the U.S. are ending support of their product. Louisiana congressmen say the U.S. needs to be at the front of that shift.
Not only will it help American families, but it will take away Putin's leverage. Think about this number. Today, between the United States, the UK, and the European Union, every single day, we are sending $700 million a day to Putin by buying his oil.
In recent weeks, the Biden administration has halted new drilling in the fight to curb climate change. Senator Bill Cassidy says that making the United States more reliant on OPEC now will hurt efforts to sanction Russia's economy.
We should be creating jobs here instead of over there. And rather than producing energy with our environmental standards, it'll be produced over there with little to no standards, which increases global emissions.
Cassidy says he believes the U.S. should not be sending troops to Ukraine since other NATO countries are not at this time. But he says the country should continue to help arm Ukraine to fight against Russian attacks.
So it appears as if we are side by side with our NATO allies in terms of the military response. But similar to us, they are committing arms. They are supplying humanitarian aid, but they are not committing troops.
Representative Garrett Graves penned a letter to the administration also calling for energy production to be allowed to ramp up and increase global leverage over Russia and China.
More than 1 million people have fled Ukraine since the attack, making it the fastest departure of the century. Senator John Kennedy chimed in with his thoughts on the conflict. He praises Ukrainians for their patriotism to their country, many of whom are volunteering to fight. Kennedy believes Russia's threats should be taken seriously because if not, the aggression, he says, could spill over into other nations.
Final point, I know Americans are really tired of foreign entanglement, but we got to respond to this threat. Because if we don't, we're going to wake up and we're going to see Russia dominant in Central and Eastern Europe.
Now, Kennedy emphasized Ukraine is not fighting this war alone. He also pointed toward China as a country the U.S. should be mindful of, despite China not being directly involved in the conflict. Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy also introducing legislation focused on placing more sanctions on Russia, specifically military and government officials in the Russian government. It would also put Vladimir Putin on the U.S. terrorist list, and it would send $10 billion in military aid to the Ukraine. Up next, we'll have a look at the week ahead on your local election headquarters. Stay with us.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Looking ahead to the coming week, LSU President William Tate will be speaking at the Baton Rouge Press Club on Monday. On Tuesday, the Special House Committee investigating allegations around the death of Ronald Greene will hold its first meeting at the state capitol. That'll happen at 1:30. Multiple appropriations and finance meetings will take place at the Capitol as lawmakers are given the full rundown of the governor's proposed budget for the next fiscal year. So there could be some arguments there. That's my prediction. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm Fred Childers. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you next Sunday right here on your local election headquarters.